Hello there, I am Sorvesteon. The new Roikubo mount is out, and with it an exciting new seal, one that provides an overall attack percentage increase. We haven't seen anything like this since the Golden Torakai. Now, I have to say that hands down, the Golden Torakai is the best seal in the game. It provides a 51% overall attack increase. However, they're also incredibly rare and very hard to come by. So it's not something that you're going to be able to build your character around unless you plan on, just going crazy with your character and spending an insane amount of money. So for the more normal players, the two best seals in the game right now are Puff and the new Roikubo. However, which one is better? Well, that's what we're going to find out in this video. Which is the ultimate seal? Puff versus Roikubo. So let's start out by taking a look at what each seal has to offer. With the Puff, it's providing 2 all attributes, a stat limit break, and health. And the Roikubo is providing 2 overall attack percentage increases, health, and all attributes. Now, at first glance, it looks like the Roikubo is better. I mean, if you add up these 2 all attributes, they total 272, which is less than the 323 that the Roikubo is providing. The Roikubo is also providing more health. However, this stat limit break really isn't telling you exactly what it's doing. Or maybe a better way to put it is it's doing a lot more than what it just says here. Now, you really have to understand what a stat limit break does to understand its benefits. And for that, let's go take a look at our attributes. You have 5 of them: strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, and willpower. One of these will have its limit removed. You'll do that through your talents. You can see down there, number 4 in the synergies, break strength limit active. That means there is no limit on the amount of strength that is being applied to my character. Now, emphasis on the applied. So when we go down and we look at dexterity, I have 2,419 dexterity from my gear and everything else. However, only 1,082 of it is actually being applied to my character. This is not true with strength, however, because there is no limit. So all 11,611 strength is being applied to my character. So what the stat limit break on a Puff does is it basically increases the limit of each attribute that's being applied to your character. So that 1,082 will add 84 to it. Now, each point of strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, and willpower adds a certain amount of other things to your character. So for strength, for example, it's 1.2 physical attack. For constitution, it's 37 health, at least for a guardian. Mind you, this is going to be different for different classes. Different classes will get different benefits from their attributes. So the stat limit break will affect different classes differently. A good example is Constitution. And this is also one of the main benefits that the Puff gives. So with Constitution, its stat limit is being broken by 84 for each Puff that I have. Now each point of Constitution adds 37 health. So you have to multiply each attribute point that's being stat limit broken by the amount of whatever it's adding to your character. So in this case, health and critical damage defense. Don't really care about critical damage defense, mostly just health. So when you multiply 37 by 84, so each point of constitution adds 37 health, multiplied by 84 points of constitution that are being added to my character because of the stat limit break, that means that I'm gaining an extra 3,108 health from this stat limit break, not including the extra 15%. Add that to the base health, and this puff actually gives me 4,513 health. Wow, I mean, what a far cry from what it states here on the overall Sealstone effect description. Now, like I said before, this is different for different classes. See, like a trickster, they don't get 25 health per constitution. They only get 25. So in the case of a trickster, each puff would add an additional 3,505 health instead of the 4,500 that I'm getting. So here you can see that the puff benefits each class differently. The Roikubo, on the other hand, doesn't. It's just a flat, straight up here, whatever your overall attack is, and then add an extra 15% plus these 15% modifiers over here. It's just a straight 2,500 health and a straight all attributes. Now, coming back to the puff for a minute, because of this stat limit break, these two all attributes here are affecting your character differently than the all attributes on a Roikubo. See, because there's no stat limit break on the Roikubo, the all attributes is really being only applied to the attribute that you've removed the limit on. So in my case, all 323 all attributes is basically translating to 323 strength and nothing else. Whereas with the puff, I'm getting 272 all attributes, and all 272 is being applied to my strength, so I'm getting an additional 272 strength, but I'm also getting 84 dexterity, 84 constitution, 84 intelligence, and 84 willpower. Now, well, that's wonderful. That doesn't necessarily mean it's super useful. I mean, okay, willpower adds 0.045% magical crit rate. Do I need magical crit rate? No. It adds 25 mana for every point in willpower I have. I need mana, but is it super critical? No. And 1 magical critical damage. Well, that's not useful to me. The same thing with dexterity. All right. So 1 dexterity adds 0.045% physical crit rate. Well, you can see here I'm already capped out on physical crit rate. So more dexterity is not really going to help me. So what I'm trying to say here is, even though the puff looks like at first glance it doesn't provide as many benefits as the Roikubo does, its benefits are just somewhat hidden and more spread out across your attributes. You can think of a puff as being a jack-of-all-trades seal, master of none. Whereas the Roikubo, well, I'd say the Roikubo is more of a DPS specialist seal. Like I said before, its all attributes are going to be applied to whatever attribute you've removed the limit on. In the case of most DPS classes, especially magic ones, that's going to be intelligence. For any physical DPS classes, that's going to be strength, including the Guardian. So it's basically jacking up your DPS while still providing a healthy dose of health. But that's it. Whereas the Puff is going to be providing more overall health and going to be increasing your stats overall. Now, this is really helpful for support classes. A lot of combat DPS classes, whether they're magic or physical based, are really going to have one main talent build. And that's going to revolve around whatever attribute increases their DPS the most. So again, for like assassins and berserkers, that's strength. For all the magic DPS classes, that's intelligence. If you have a second talent build, it's still going to focus around that one stat that increases your DPS. However, for support classes, not only are we going to have a DPS build, we're also going to have something called a con build. Now, I'm in my DPS build right now, which is based around strength. But if I switch to my con build, now Constitution is the attribute that has had its limit removed. And you can see there's a big change to my health. So for Constitution builds, surprisingly, the Roikubo is actually the better seal. And this all comes from the amount of health you're getting from the all attributes. Basically, the Roikubo provides more all attributes than a Puff does, and so it provides more overall Constitution. In fact, when I crunch the numbers, from this Roikubo, I am gaining 14,453 health overall. That's from the all attributes combined with the base health it provides, not including these percentage modifiers. Whereas this Puff is only providing me with 11,469 health. That's because, like I said, I'm getting more Constitution from the Roikubo than I am from the Puff, and the Roikubo has a higher overall health stat. However, while that sounds great, that still doesn't mean that the Roikubo is better than the Puff. Because the only time support classes are really using their Constitution builds are in really hard dungeons, like Scarlet Harbor, maybe Alora's Trials, the new Yadaman dungeon, which I haven't been in yet. But so because they're only using their Constitution builds in these really hard dungeons, that actually means that they're spending most of their time in their DPS builds. And so when we look at whether the Roikubo or the Puff is better, it's really more about which seal is giving you more benefits in your DPS build. And for that, well, neither is really better. It all depends on your class and what you're aiming for. For a DPS class, I would say the Roikubo has a lot of benefits. It's going to increase your overall DPS while still giving you health. So that's great. It's giving you a little bit more survivability, but mostly it's increasing your overall offense, which is what you want with a DPS class. Whereas the Puff, I would say the Puff is more orientated towards survivability. It does increase your DPS, but by nowhere near the amount that the Roikubo does. However, that's fine because there are certain classes in the game which don't really need to gain huge amounts of DPS. even in their DPS builds, they still want a high degree of survivability. Like right now, I've transitioned back into my DPS build, and I have 470,000 health. And that's perfect for me because I'm going to use that to go run TOW or other legendary dungeons. I'm not going to switch to my Constitution build to run even, say, a TOW Legendary 5 because it's not necessary. And in my DPS build, I can still contribute some supporting DPS to the group overall. Whereas if I transition to my Constitution build, well, then the burden is all on my DPS to provide all the DPS for the group. So I guess in conclusion, there is really no ultimate seal, unless we're talking about the Golden Torakai, which we are disregarding for the purposes of this video. The Puff and the Raikubo excel at different things. And even if you want to get like the highest DPS you possibly can as a DPS class, you're probably not going to go all Raikubos. Because you need a certain amount of survivability. I mean, if you're running a legendary TOW 5, you need to be able to survive a Blood Curse from Corrodian, either by using your Invince or through some other means. And you have to be able to survive her other attacks as well. If she switches to you because you're generating more threat than the tank is at, say, a particular moment, and she one-shots you, that's not useful for your group. So even DPS classes are going to want some sort of balance between their overall DPS and their survivability. So it's not about whether, hey, okay, the Raikubo is the best seal in the game, I'm going to socket my gear with nothing but Raikubos. No, please don't do that. What you want and what you'll need to figure out is what is a healthy balance between Raikubos and Puffs for my class. What is going to give me a high degree of overall DPS while still giving me the survivability I need to participate and not become a burden upon my group. So there you have it. The new Raikubo did not make the Puff irrelevant in the current meta. Both seals are going to be very important for anyone looking to max out their character. As always, I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts down in the comment section. This has been Sorvesteon. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos.